so that we can record this for today. And pass it on to to Tracy to introduce our speaker, Jessica. Tracy.
Great. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Today I have the great pleasure of introducing to you Jessica Leslie. Jessica has been teaching in and around the EAL world for the past 20 years. She has had the privilege of teaching in Central Asia and on both of Canada's stunning coasts. She has a Master's of Education and Curriculum Development for students with diverse needs and exceptionalities. Jessica is the Accessibility Support Program Instructor at Immigration Services Association of Nova Scotia. Today, she will be presenting on multisensory learning in an online context. Thank you so much and welcome, Jessica.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to be here. And I know that I heard earlier you wish it was in person, and I completely agree. I'd much rather do these in person. But that said, if we didn't do this online, I wouldn't be able to be here with you today. So I'm thankful that we still have these options of doing virtual presentations and webinars. It makes the reach quite a bit further. So as Tracy mentioned, my name is Jessica Leslie, and I work at ISANS, our Immigration Services Association of Nova Scotia. So I am hailing from Mi'kma'ki, and Halifax is the traditional unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. And it is a very snowy day. Actually, it's a snow day. My kids are downstairs and I've told them to be quiet. But I'm very happy to be with you. So let me share my screen here, definitely share the sound, and hope that it all works. Okay, can I get a thumbs up from your responses or the emojis that you all can see the screen that says multisensory learning? Yep, awesome. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, here we go. Let's make this as big as we can. And it's loading slowly. Okay, so just out of curiosity, if you don't mind putting in the chat, or you can turn off your mic and shout at me, that's fine. How many of you are classroom instructors that teach completely online? I don't know if that is possible. Yes.
Some classes are completely, some classes are face-to-face. I'm kind of half, like I have, my teaching is half and half.
Yeah, so we've got some completely online. We have some, anybody do blended where it's half online, half in person?
Yeah, I do some of that too.
Blended, yeah, it's been interesting. I thought that, you know, when COVID first hit, that maybe we'd go back to being fully online and fully in person, and that has not played out. Actually, our students have said that they prefer either a blended or an online model, especially at the higher levels when they employed online conversation groups. Okay, awesome. Okay, great. Next question. How many of you have heard the term, maybe when you did your teacher training, CPR, or total physical response? Is that a familiar term? You can either raise your hand or type in yes or no, or I think so, maybe.
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right.
I remember.
And prior to COVID, when you were teaching in person, did you use TPR or movement in your classroom as part of your regular practice?
Always.
Always. This is something that I find EAL teachers tend to be quite good at already, but you know, it begs the question. I always want to double check. Okay, well, let's jump in. Something that I don't know, maybe it's the nerd in me. I am a self-proclaimed nerd. I have no problem claiming that. I like science and I like to know that everything that I'm doing in my classes is backed by science, and that what I'm doing is actually going to affect them. And so whenever I do a presentation, I try and sneak a little bit of science in there just so that that you have a bit of some knowledge about why we do what we do and why it works. So with that in mind, I want to give you a quote about the origins of TPR, how total physical response came to be. And the originator was a man named Dr. James Asher. And this is absolutely fascinating. I'm just going to read this to you for anybody who, for accessibility purposes. To determine whether or not the popular belief of children's superiority in language learning is a myth, Dr. Asher designed an experiment in which they offered Russian lessons synchronized with body movements to adults as well as children. The result was inspirational. When adults had the opportunity to acquire language through body movement, they actually outperformed children of all ages. Children's superiority only remained in the domain of pronunciation. So if that's encouraging, at least for your adult learners, when you combine movement with learning, they learn better, which is absolutely fascinating. So a little bit more science before we move on to some practical things, but the nerd in me can't let it go. So why this works, why they were more successful than kids when they were able to move. So the part of our brains that process movement actually happens in the same part of our brain that processes learning. They overlap. And so when you are creating movement or connecting movement and learning, I like to say you get another brain wrinkle. You're creating another neural pathway that allows for retention and memory to be created, which is fascinating. And I won't read all of these things. You can take a look there. But when we participate in physical activity, all of these things are happening in our brains, which is fine. That's all well and good. But also, all of these things facilitate the process of learning, which is fabulous. And the other reason why people with more knowledge than me say that this works is that movement mimics how infants learn by creating, again, brain wrinkles, more elaborate brain connections and stronger memories compared to just a single sensory input. So that is the science behind why we use TPR, why we use movement in our classrooms, and why it works. Now, I don't know about you, but when COVID happened, everything that I did as a practitioner of EA as an English instructor kind of went out the window for a while, and it was. I guess we were all in not panic mode, but just, not fight or flight. We're just in crisis mode for so long. And all of the practices that I espoused as being good practice for my classroom disappeared. And as an accessibility teacher, I know that my students need more than just a screen in front of them to learn. And so that was the impetus for this presentation in the first place, is how do we get back to those good practices when our context is completely different than it ever has been. So with that in mind, let's jump in. And what I have done is I've tried to break it up into the 4 skill areas: reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and different multisensory activities that you can use even in an online context. And what I have a feeling that most of what I'm going to say is not novel. It's not unfamiliar to you. These are probably activities that you have done in the past, but my hope is that I can spark some creativity and some memory about, oh yeah, I did that. That was 2 years ago. Oh my gosh. But go, oh, actually I can do that. in my online class. It doesn't have to just be in person. We can still modify this and be able to do it in an online context. So let's take a look at some ideas for reading. So connecting our sight and our sound, and what are some ways that we can do that? So I have separated this into 3 sections. So easy ideas for my lower levels, those who teach, literacy or levels, beginner, if that's what your program calls it, or if you're in the CLBs, levels 1 and 2, and then some intermediate ideas. And then I have some for our more advanced classes. So hopefully there's something for everybody. But come on now, some easy ideas. Is anybody familiar with this term, skywriting? You heard that before? Anybody? You can put it in the chat if you, yes, no, skywriting. It's an interesting, okay. No, yes, some yes, some no. Okay. So this is something that that I came across in research on dyslexia and literacy learning, and it is literally as it says, writing in the sky. So if you have clients, or sorry, I'm used to calling them clients at ISANS, students, and they are learning, let's say, letter formation or really simple, CVC words, having them wherever they are, if they're sitting at home at their kitchen table, or you can have them stand up. Always recommend standing or getting people to move when you're online. Just even standing up for an activity, great way to do it. Having them stand up, take their finger and literally write in the sky with their arm. So they've got the weight of their arm combined with the movement and the shape of whatever letter or word that they are doing. Now, the Dyslexia International website recommends having the model in front of them as they do this, so it's not just they're trying to do it from memory. So if you are using PowerPoint, or you're using I don't know, some Google Slides or whatever that you are using as your presentation model for your online classes, I recommend putting the word or the letter in giant font on the screen, and then having them back up from their screen, stand up and trace it in the sky. So that's one easy thing that you can do to get people moving and creating those extra brain wrinkles. Syllable clapping. Now this is, oh my goodness, this has been going, I think we've been doing this for 100 years in language learning, and it's great because so many things are happening in our brains when we do this. So we clap the syllables. Why not do that online? Absolutely. If you're talking about like talking about their names and you're counting syllables. So Amina, right? We've all done this. Do it online. Absolutely. No reason they can't do it by themselves at home in their kitchen. Some other things that you can do in lieu of syllable clapping, just to change things up, and this is something that my coworker taught me, is she did stomping instead of syllable clapping. And when we were in person, it was hysterical. I always knew when she was working on their syllables because I would hear elephants next door, and she would do it with sentence stress. And so she would have them dun, 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 and they would literally stomp around the room. Do it at home. Get them to stand up, stomp in place, walk around their kitchen, whatever it takes to help get them up, get them moving, do it. And then this last one, also syllable counting. And this was a new one for me, and I'm pretty sure I saw this in a class I took on EAL and dyslexia. Same but different. Instead of clapping, having them put their hand underneath their chin, say the word, and count how many times their chin goes down. Amina. So couple things you can do, a couple sensory areas that they're focusing on is their jaw going down, and then also the sensation of their jaw pushing down on their hand while they are talking and they're listening. So you have 3 senses happening all at once. Amina. So easy multisensory way of counting syllables. Next one is tracing on the carpet. Now, this can be on the carpet, on the table where they're at, or the hard floor. It doesn't seem to matter. I don't know about you, but a lot of my clients are often escaping children. And so they're in their bedrooms sitting on the floor. And so what you can have them do, take their finger and trace the letter, whatever letter that they're doing or whatever word that they're working on, because we have so many nerve endings in our fingertips that is a huge sensory input to pair with spelling or sound, right? Drawing. And while it works better on carpet because it's bumpy, it still works to do it on a table because there's still those fine lines in a table, especially if it's wood, that are gonna they're gonna light up those nerve endings in our fingertips. So that's one thing you can do. Next one, gestures or tapping. So something that I did before and eventually got back to is when I'm teaching phonics and I'm teaching letter sounds at the lowest levels, is I try to give a gesture for every sound. And so easiest example is S. I do this like a snake, right? Or for the letter T, for example, I do this, like a mother tisking her children. But anytime you can create an association, kind of like a mnemonic device, if you know what those are. So creating a strong association between a movement and a sound, they're going to remember it better. And it means that later on, if they're struggling to remember the sound, if you're in a reading context, you can just do the gesture. You don't even have to make the sound, and it'll trigger that memory for them. You can absolutely do this online. Tapping. Now, this is something a coworker introduced me to just a month ago, and she loves to incorporate music. She's a music teacher on the side. So it's a rhythm chant, and you use whatever, let's say you've got 5 words in your vocabulary list if you're at the lowest levels, and it's using your body to tap out the rhythm. And so, for example, if I use days of the week, we'll just use Monday, Tuesday through Friday, right? So she start at the top of your body and work your way down, depending on how far each one is, depends on how many words you have in your list. But she's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and on down the body. And then again, and you get them to do it like 5-6 times in a row, and then you speed it up. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And again, it's that sensation of touching and tapping and pulsing along with the vocabulary. And especially if they're looking at the word at the same time, then again, you've got 3 senses all in a row. You've got sound, sight, and proprioceptive or tactile. A tactile sensation happening. So great way to work on vocabulary for reading and increase the number of senses that they are using while they're doing it. The last one is just an easy one that I like to do, and that's that I like to use color on my slides. So if normally we have a white slide with black writing, flip the script. You make a black slide with white writing, or make a white slide with dark orange writing or something. Or if you're doing, this is maybe more intermediate, or maybe if you're level 2 or higher, but if you're doing sentence structure, and they're reading a sentence, put each part of speech in different colors. So, depending on, again, if your students can see it or not, but like yellow for the subject and red for the verb and green for your object or something like that. But using color to differentiate things it's creating an extra sense of vision, of visual input that isn't there if you're just using black text. You do have to be careful because sometimes with online it's difficult with glare and things like that. So it depends on your clients. You can ask them, can you see this color? And yes or no, and then go from there. But it's just an option, just to spice things up a little bit. Throw some color on those slides. Okay. Right. So intermediate, sure. Okay, it looks like, yeah, somebody just asked about accessibility problems with colors. That's what I meant about asking your clients. Now, some vision is actually benefited by having different color paper or different color slides. So again, especially if you're teaching adults, just check in with them. Does this work for you? Does it not? You know, if not, change it. No big deal. Can't hurt to try. So some intermediate ideas. Now, this first one, flashcards, it really depends on how your program is set up. For our program, especially when COVID first hit, we were actually sending home homework packages, and our teachers would create a flashcard sheet and have them cut it up. Now, for our online classes, they can come and pick up anything that we have, or if they're advanced enough, you can have them get 3x5 cards or note cards from the dollar store and have them make their own flashcards at home. You can definitely use flashcards in an online context. You say, okay, everybody, we're either making them today, or we're pull out your alphabet or your parts of speech or your whatever it happens to be that you're working on, your vocabulary list. Bring out your cards. Everybody bring out the cards. Okay, everybody pick up, and you choose a word, right? So you can have them show me whatever word, or show me a verb, and they have to grab a verb, and it might be a multiple, right? So anything where they are tactile, or they're picking stuff up. So note cards are a really easy way to do that with your intermediate level students. Now, you could definitely do that with beginner students too, with alphabet. Highly recommend it. Alphabet cards, oh my gosh, I use those every day. Pick up, show me C. Everybody has to look in their 26 cards, find the C, pick it up. Same thing I would do in a class, just doing that online. Something else that you can do, and I was talking about color with slides, if they have kids at home, and the kids have, or younger kids at home, I should say, have Lego or colored blocks. This is a fantastic way to learn. So you can take colored blocks, assign a color to a part of speech. So in our literacy program, it's yellow subject, red for verbs, and green for objects. And you put a sentence on the board and you read, usually out of order, the part of speech. So you read the object and you say, what is this? A yellow words, red words, or green words? And they have to pick up the block or the Lego or whatever it is. So different ways you can incorporate their reading comprehension with something tactile. Next one, song and dance spelling, and this is a little silly, and it'll depend on your personality and how much buy-in your class has. But you know, in my lowest levels, I do head and shoulders, knees and toes when we're learning body parts. Why not do that online? And, you know, they can mute their mics, so people don't have to listen to them singing, but you can incorporate songs and jazz chants and silly dances and movements like the tapping or whatever in your online classes, and get people moving for your lessons rather than just sitting and listening. And this last one was an interesting one, again, that came out of a dyslexia course that I was taking called paintbrush reading. Now, I know with our lower-ish levels, we always have our students put their finger under the words and make sure that they're following along. And that generally tends to be for like more word by word, slower reading. The paintbrush reading, from what I understood, was for sentence fluidity, because of how it glides across the page. And it's a way of, again, just doing something different than just your finger underneath. You're holding an implement and you're dragging it along underneath the sentence as you read. And it gets them to think of the sentence as a whole rather than breaking up the words individually. Now, you have to do a lot of modeling with this probably, but again, very, very simple way of adding just an extra sensation while they're reading something, rather than just reading it off the page, but actually making them move their hand in a different way. So, for what that's worth. Okay. Any questions so far? I don't want to just talk at you. I know our time is really short, but I just wanted to give space if you have any questions so far. Pop it in the chat, turn on your mic, whatever.
Could you expand on paintbrush reading, please? And I was also wondering, using a paintbrush for nouns, for objects. And
yep. You can do whatever you want with it. That's the great thing about a lot of these ideas is they're fully adaptable to whatever makes sense to you. As long there isn't necessarily a particular, well, often there is a purpose behind it, but just doing something more than just having them sit and read, right? Just using their eyes. So here they're using their eyes and they're using their hand and the pressure of the movement on the page. And so for paintbrush reading, it was more, from what I understood, it was just about that movement through a sentence, not being choppy, like getting them to have that fluidity of sound when they're reading rather than sounding like a robot, as it were, if that makes sense. Good. Okay. For my advanced friends here, I'm going to show you a video about an idea that I had never heard of before. And this is, unfortunately, and everybody asks after every time I show this video, there is no YouTube link. Unfortunately, I can't share that with you because this was actually from a course that I took specifically on EFL and dyslexia out of Lancaster University in the UK. And it's a free course. It's 4 weeks. It's asynchronous. Anybody can take it. So highly recommend it if that's your bag. And I want to give a little bit of a warning beforehand. The woman on the left who's doing the interview has a very, very thick Scottish accent. So I have put subtitles underneath, but I just want to give you fair warning just for to tune your ears. But this is an advanced idea for vocabulary. There's no sound yet, don't worry.
Judith, I know you're not a French language teacher,
No, I'm not.
And perhaps not even a French language speaker, particularly other than maybe holidays and things. So if we think about a word which is confusable, like chevaux in French, and cheveux.
Yeah, that's a tricky one.
Two very confusable words, and words that students with dyslexia often get muddled up over. Chevaux, horses. Horses are animals. There's a chevaux. The tricky letter in chevaux, which gets mixed up with cheveux, is that A, and the E in cheveux. So the A, you're thinking of horses, animals, it's an A in chevaux. So that might help. Also, visualization. Judith, there's the word chevaux. We've printed it out there for you in big letters. Now, the principle of this is to print in big letters so that you can see the word. You can see the word chevaux there.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to visualize that word, to look at the word until you think you can see the word inside your head. Just keep looking at it. Look at it until you can visualize it. When you think you can visualize the word chevaux, and I'm going to work on the word chevaux just now, look away and look up to that blank bit of wall up there. You're looking up to the left there.
Yeah.
Can you see the word chevaux?
Yeah.
Great. Now the word chevaux, the first sound is sh. What two letters are making that word? Now keep looking up there.
Okay. CH.
CH are making that sh sound in French. Perfect. What's the word that follows the CH?
E.
And what comes after the E?
V.
Okay. What colour are those letters in? What colour's the whole word in?
Black.
It's all in black. Okay. You can see the CHEV up there.
Yeah.
What's the letter that follows the V?
It's the A.
Okay, look up there and you see the A after the V.
Yeah.
And you tell me again, what colour's that in?
Red.
The A's in red.
Yeah.
Is the whole word in red?
No.
No, you're seeing the A in red?
Yeah.
That's brilliant because you're thinking about the tricky letter there. That's great. Make that A flash in your mind, make it flash.
Yeah, it's flashing now.
It is flashing now, that's brilliant. Okay, what colour's it flashing in?
Red.
It's flashing in red. Change it, make it flash in blue. Can you see it? Can you still see it?
Yeah.
Is it flashing?
Yeah.
Still flashing? Flashing blue?
Yeah.
And it's an A. Okay, what are the two letters that come after that A?
U and X.
U and X. Excellent. Because you've got a silent letter there at the very end of chevaux, haven't you?
Yeah.
And what is that letter?
It's an X.
It's an X, absolutely. Keep looking up there.
Okay.
See the X?
Yeah.
Make it
You see
flash.
that? Yeah.
What colour is it flashing?
Black.
It's flashing black. Change it and make it flash red.
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Now I want you to go back and spell the word. Keep looking at it. It's in your mind. You're looking at it in your mind. Spell the word chevaux.
CHEVAUX.
Excellent. Now I'm just going to test you out. I don't really want you to spell the word backwards, but so that you can prove to me that you can still see the word, spell it backwards to me.
XUAVEHC.
Brilliant. Now I'm going to finish off by asking you to spell it forwards.
CHEVAUX.
Now hopefully you will never again forget that that word chevaux has AUX, and you don't get it muddled up with the hair and the cheveux, because you're thinking about the horses, the animals, the A, you visualize the word, you have the spelling of the whole word in addition to the confusable element that is in the word. So we've actually dealt with two things there by getting you to visualize that and to work on it, not just to look at it and think you actually know how to spell it, but to actually prove that you have learned that word. So excellent.
Okay. Well, hopefully that was interesting for you. Okay. When I saw that video the first time, I was just like mind blown. I thought it was brilliant. It's such a great idea. And science tells us, research of dyslexia and reading disorders tells us that comprehension, that the breakdown in comprehension, especially for language learners, but even for native speakers, happens because of a lack of ability to visualize aspects of language. So by getting students to practice visualizing their vocabulary or their tricky words, the likelihood of retention and comprehension is exponentially increased. It looks like there's a question here. Yes, saving it for only certain circumstances. Absolutely. It might be something that you use only with certain clients, certain students that struggle, or if it's a word, as we have many of them in English, that doesn't like to play by the rules, that doesn't follow normal spelling patterns, that might be when you use something like this. But you can absolutely do this in an online context. You put the word on your slide in really big font and you walk them through the same thing. You ask them to look at the wall next to them or off to the side, and you can do the same thing. Yeah, pictographic memory technique, exactly. Exact same concept, only at the word level. And at the end, I will share the name of the course with everybody in the chat, you bet. Okay, so those are my reading suggestions. And let's take a look at some listening and speaking ideas for online. So for listening, something that when you're doing a listening activity, now not necessarily with a test or an assessment per se, but when you are doing just listening activities, have them listen first. And now granted, most of us do this, but maybe at the higher levels, listen first, for comprehension, for context, and then have them listen along again, but with reading the text as well. So combining sound and sight is going to help them understand what they hear better. Another thing that we used to do in the classroom, absolutely no reason why you can't do it in an online class, is stand up when you hear. So let's say you're working on minimal pairs, words that sound similar, or you're working, if you're at the lower levels, you're working on short A versus long A. So stand up when you hear the short A words, right? And getting them to stand up in their kitchen, in their living room, wherever they are, is an absolutely legitimate way of getting people moving in a listening context. As a warm-up, something I love to do when I was in class is this or that. So move to the right if you like Coke, move to the left if you like Pepsi, for example. You can do that online. Why not? Get them to stand up, move to the left side of your camera if you like this, move to the right side of your camera if you like that. Why not? Absolutely. You can do Simon Says or Teacher Says online. Just because they're alone doesn't mean they still can't participate. Let's see, bingo. Okay, so I loved bingo when we were in class and when we were in person. I used to do it all the time with letter sounds and vocabulary and things like that. I have successfully played bingo online. And all I did was I put up a screen of a 4x4 for the lower levels or a 5x5 for my upper levels. And I said, please draw this on your paper. And then the next slide, I gave them all of the words, put these in any square. And it took a couple of times if they had never played bingo before when we were in class, but once they got it, and I gave them some examples of what a bingo sheet, a filled out bingo sheet looked like, we were able to do it successfully and they loved it. And it was great because again, you're combining the sound with the visual on the page and then the movement of crossing out. So you can totally do bingo online. It works, I promise. And then the last one, again, I used to do it in class all the time, but building those listening comprehension skills is draw a picture of what you hear. So they've got a piece of paper on their desk and they've got their pencil and you know, let's say you're working on prepositions of place and you can say, the ball is under the table. Make them draw a picture of it. And then you get all these fun, and then they have to hold it up and show their classmates and everybody has a good giggle. Absolutely beautiful way of combining the visual with the auditory. Let's see, an exercise bike for the student can stay seated. No, but that's a great idea if they have one. And then playing Jeopardy online, absolutely, totally love it. I love the stationary bike. If they have one at home, that would be, yeah, for those students that have the wiggles. That's always helpful. But that's what I like about all of these things is that, you know, stand up when you hear, move to this side of the room. It gets them up and moving. And again, it depends on how long your class is. If you only have an hour class, that's one thing. Maybe you'll just do a couple of things that create movement. But if your classes, our classes are 2.5 hours normally, or some I've done this workshop with other people where their classes are all day. And I just think, oh my gosh, all day online, I'd go nuts. So as many action movement type activities you can do as possible in that type of context. All right. Okay, so, oh, sorry about the movement back and forth here. My slides are not happy with me. Okay, so some speaking activities that use other senses. I've given them silly names. It's just what I called them to call them something because I didn't have a name for them when I do them with my students, but mirror, mirror on the wall. And this I used with pronunciation, especially if we were working on a particular sound. I would have the students either go to the bathroom or if they had a handheld mirror of some kind, I would have them sit and put the mirror in front of their face and watch their mouths while they were speaking, because it gives them a different perspective on what they're saying. The other thing that you can do, as long as they're not using their phone for accessing your class, let's assume they have a tablet or a computer over here. If not, you can have them do it as homework, have them record themselves up close to their mouths, recording whatever vocabulary or sound structure that you're working on, and they can play it back. They can look at them, watch their own video. They can send it to you as homework. But as another visual support representation of what the sound is that they're making. And what's out your window? I use this as a warm-up, but you could also use it as a sensory break or a motion break in the middle of a longer class. And I just have as a speaking activity, I say, okay, Mohammed, go over to the window over there, look outside, tell us what you see. And it gets them up, it gets them moving, it gets them using what's in their space, in their neighborhood that's familiar, that's something they probably look at every day. But again, it gets them up and out of their seats. So what's out your window? Again, jazz chants and songs and whatever type of, if you use music or rhythm in your classes previously, no reason that you can't use them now. Now they just do it online. And why not? Now this last one, okay, I threw this in there here slightly as a joke, but it was recommended in a class that I took, which I thought was really funny. But they used, if you could handle it, it would drive me up a wall, kazoos, if you can even get them. But using kazoos for syllable stress was a very, very amusing activity. Especially for sentence stress, because they can't say the words. They just have to make the sound and make the stress in the right place. Right? Or if you're doing, for example, question, right? How our questions go up at the end. So you can use kazoos if you can find them. I throw it in there just for silliness. This last one I thought was great. Rubber band sentences or rubber band stress. So everybody's got rubber bands in their junk drawers at home. I don't think it matters what culture you come from. We all have them kicking around from newspapers or from whatever. And so you get them to go grab a rubber band from their kitchen or from wherever, and you use that for your sentence stress or for your word stress. Dun, 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 right? And they pull on the rubber band for the stressed syllable or the stressed word of a sentence. So that was I thought that was a really neat activity, because you're using the tension pulling on the rubber band as well as speaking and hearing what they're saying. So you've got lots of senses going on right there. So there we go. Oh, word stress, yeah. Okay, so those are my listening and speaking ideas. And some writing ideas. Have you all heard of mind mapping? And this tends to be a brainstorming activity when people are writing essays, but I take it down to the word level. I don't know if you've ever heard of mind mapping. So mind mapping is really, really great for clients with ADHD because it allows them not to have to just write like lines and sentences and paragraphs. It allows them to organize their thoughts in a different way. But if you want to do it at the lower levels, I will give you an example. So my theme was around the house, and we took 4 rooms, and each room had 3 vocabulary words for each room for a different furniture, I think it was. And I made them draw. I made them draw this in particular. So I said, okay, draw a circle in the middle, write the word house. Now draw 4 lines. And at the end of 4, then I would do this. What I would often do is I would do this on a blank whiteboard slide on my screen, so that they could see and do, the first few times I do it with them. And then after that, depending on their level, if it's a higher level, they can do it independently. If not, then I'll continue to support them at the lowest levels. But then they would draw circles, or squares or rectangles, whatever what have you, and put their vocabulary words And so instead of just having a list of words, it's a map of words. It's a different way of looking at it. Oh no, fire alarm, that's no good. Well, Tracy will hopefully see you on the other side. So mind mapping as a way of writing, as a writing support. Oops, sorry about that. Let's try this again. Doesn't like it when I touch the screen. Okay, again, skywriting or carpet writing. A lot of these are going to overlap, reading and writing, obviously. But same thing, the tactile, the sensation in your fingertips. If you're writing those tricky vocabulary words like we were talking about with the visualization, having them write those on the ground, on the carpet, and the feeling in their fingertips is going to help with remembering how to spell a trickier word. This is an activity that is really popular here at ISANS. I had never heard of it until I started working here. Now it's been 5 years now, but it's something that we did in class called Read, Cover, Write, Check. And what it was just a basic chart, like a table that was printed out. And let's say it has 4 columns. And in the first column is the list of vocabulary words. So let's say you have 10 vocabulary words or 5 vocabulary words, depending on the level. So it would be a table of 5 rows and 4 columns. And it would have the vocabulary words in the left-hand column and then 3 blank columns. And what they would do is they would read the word. So let's say we'll use the rooms of the living room, for example. They would see living room, they would read it. They would cover it with their hand, they would practice writing it, and then they would check and compare their spelling. And then they would do it again 2 more times. So they would have to write each vocabulary word 3 times as practice, and they would have to cover it each time and just compare their spelling. So it was called Read, Cover, Write, Check. I discovered that I could very easily do something similar online by asking them to take a piece of their paper and draw 2 lines so that they had 3 columns. And then I would put a word up on the screen, say, okay, everybody read it, got it? And then I would take it down, okay, write it on your paper. Give them a few minutes, put the word back up, check, how is your spelling? And then we would do it again 2 more times for each word. So that is my way of transferring it from in class to online. And then if I want to up it a notch, I would say, grab some colored pencils. Every time you write a word, write it in a different color. So the first time we write this word, we're going to use blue. The second time we write this word, we're going to use red. The third time we're going to use green or whatever. But yeah, using color and changing color every time they write the same thing just helps with that multisensory visual aspect of their writing. And then you can do the same thing with sentence structure. If you're having them write sentences, like write about a picture, like you put a picture up on the screen and you ask them, what do you see? Write what's happening in this photo. Let's say for a low level, you say, okay, I want you to write 2 sentences about what you see. And then an upper level, I want you to write a paragraph. You can do the same thing with colored pencils in parts of speech. Okay, for the subject, I want you to write in yellow. For your verbs are going to be in red, and your objects are going to be green. So depending on your level, you make them use colored pencils to write the different parts of speech as they're writing sentences. So you're combining sentence structure with color. Okay, how much time do we have? Almost there. Perfect. And then here's some universal things that I do with any skill that overlap. You can pop in and out anything. You can get them to stand for an activity, as long as it's not longer than 5 minutes. That's kind of usually the limit about how, but if you're going to do a reading, let's say everybody is reading a paragraph or a sentence in a story or a text that you have. When it's their turn, they have to stand up. Easy way to do it. Or you're doing a speaking activity and you have 2 people who are doing a dialogue. Those 2 people have to stand up, even at home. Yep, make them do it. Anytime you can get them moving, it's going to be a good thing. Number 2, if your class is over an hour long, at the hour mark, you need to get them up. This is scientifically proven. We are not designed to be stationary and sedentary. So an hour mark is always a good time to get them up, get them moving, have a stretch break. I actually do stretching if my class is online for longer than an hour. It's okay, everybody stand up, put your hands over your head. All right, stretch this way, stretch that way, right? Getting them up and moving, it's going to create blood flow to the brain, oxygen. It's going to help them learn better. Always, always, always try and take a stretch break after an hour. Number 3, I integrate, even at the highest levels, as much drawing or coloring as I can, especially for comprehension. If you're reading something, draw a picture of what you've read, or draw a picture of what you've heard, or use color in your writing, or whatever. If you can use drawing or color to represent knowledge or understanding, always a good thing. And then this last one, I really, really enjoy, actually. It can be like a little scavenger hunt, and it depends on what theme that you're doing in the class at the time, but go find a whatever. So if you are at the lower levels and you're learning furniture or something about household, go find a mug. Go get a mug from your kitchen, bring it back and show us. Everybody gets up, they go into their apartments, they come back and they show it. At the higher levels, depending on what you're doing, it could be like maybe you're let's see, maybe you are working on physical descriptors. So you're talking about, oh, this person is tall, they have brown hair, whatever, or they are a kind person. Have them go up, go grab a photo off of your wall or from a photo album. And they go and they bring it back and then they describe that person. They're not allowed to use a photo on their phone. You actually have to get them up out of their chairs. Or whatever you can think of within the theme that you're working in. If it's something tangible that they can actually touch and grab and show, use it. Have them get up out of their chairs, go grab it, bring it back, show everybody to talk about it. Easy thing to do. Okay, those are all of my ideas. Now I'm curious about yours. What multisensory activities are you using currently online? Or, and this is what I hope some of the things you've come away with today, is what are things that you've used before that you can adapt to use online? So please turn off your mic, talk, throw it in the chat, whatever. I'd love to hear some ideas. Please, I need ideas always. So please let me know. What do you think? What are some things that you could do or you have done online that are multisensory? Oh, come
I did something similar to your Go Find.
Mhm.
It was kind of like show and tell. Everybody has to bring an object, but hide it. And then the person who has the object has to describe the object, and everybody else has to draw the object. And then we all hold up our picture, and then whoever had the object has to decide which picture is the closest to the object they have.
Most accurate.
And
I
most
love
accurate. And then at the end they show their object and everybody laughs.
it.
And,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
That kind
It's
of
a great-
Pictionary / Go Find Us /
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, bring your pet to the Zoom room. Absolutely. I think that is, my dog makes regular appearances in my classes. They all know him. Any other ideas?
I think that's one advantage of tutoring from home, because we at home somewhere we have the object.
Yeah.
And I know at my learning center, I also try to keep a variety of objects, but it's great when I totally agree with you that finding the object is a great demonstration of what we're discussing.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
I think something that I've tried a couple of times is just doing some kind of talent show. So just get people to just choose something that they know how to do. Maybe, hopefully it's something surprising or something that the class doesn't know about, and then see if they can actually do it within the, the webcam view. Like
Yeah.
maybe it's juggling or something like that, or playing an instrument.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that idea. Anybody else? Well, I'm gonna just pop. Okay, so the dyslexia course on online. Oops. I believe it's called language learning. Hold on. Language teaching. Okay. All right. So Future Learn and the Lancaster University combined to do this course. And I've seen it offered free certain times of the year, and then sometimes you have to pay for it. It's under $200. I do know that. Highly recommend it. It's 4 weeks asynchronous, and it was an absolutely fantastic class for anybody who has clients that they know have dyslexia, or clients that you suspect have dyslexia or other reading disorders, specific learning disabilities. You get lots of tips and tricks on ways to support clients and activities that you can do, and different universal design practices that you can put in your class to support learners who have reading challenges. So that's where that video came from, just to circle back to that. But we are right at 11 o'clock. So I have this talk almost down to the minute, which ends up working out well. So I hope that helped some of you, and that you came away with some ideas that will support your classes and make them a little bit more fun for everybody involved, including you.
Thank you, Jessica. You are punctual. Oh my goodness. It's 9:59. We're 1 hour behind you. So you're right on the dot.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say thank you very much. You gave us some really great ideas. I'm actually excited to go back in the classroom and try some of these out, and to use some of them also for myself in the language that I'm using at the moment. So thank you so much. And I like how you demonstrated a lot of your activities, and your slides were colorful and engaging. What do you use? Is it Canva or?
No, it's Prezi.
Prezi. Okay, good to know. Yeah, I loved your slides. Anyways, thank you so much. We all really appreciated you presenting to us this morning.
Awesome. Glad I could be helpful. Well, enjoy the rest of your PD day, and keep warm.
Yeah, it's cold.
For this winter. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
So this